Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. I shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today. Where, hey, I'm back from holiday. Back on my weekend trip. How was it, you might ask? It was a fantastic time. I had a great time. My legs are so incredibly tired, which we'll talk about in a second. Late night recording because still had D&D today. The other campaign has leveled up now as well. A very intense finale, which I feel like maybe I didn't give it quite as much explosive, like a grandioseness as I could have done, but certainly I was significantly more tired, I think, in this campaign, this session, than in all the others. So, good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 11:47 p.m. on Monday, April 29th, 2024. So yeah, I mean, if you're curious what happened, basically they were going to fight this, so I could peel back, but I'm trying to think how much I can peel back behind the curtains, because sometimes some of my friends do actually watch these videos, so I don't want to like give away all the secrets necessarily, but if I can give you some of the behind the scenes looks, then it can be kind of fun. But basically, oh, it's May Day tomorrow-ish, day after, you know, whatever. But if I can sort of like peel back the curtain just so they can have like some context of things, it's always fun. But basically what they were trying to do is they're trying to destroy a portal, essentially, is kind of like what I had in mind. I'd be like, okay, once I do this, this will be the milestone for level 4. Oh, I'm so sorry, Lily. But of course, there's a lot of investigation that goes with it as well. And the number one way, I was like, okay, I'm going to give him this chance, and it's up to them to decide exactly how we do with it. I gave him some magical items, one of them being a Dispel Magic Scroll, which has a chance to fail, mind you. So which I fully was aware of that, and as the golden rule goes, give him 3 different ways to get out of a jam, should they need to. And spell magic, I was just like, okay, well, this would be the easiest way. They solve a puzzle to spell magic, and it's all dandy. But then I'm like, I need a backup plan in case that doesn't work out. And this backup plan, I was like, okay, well, just like overwhelming force. And in this case, it was just a big barrel of explosives, essentially, just like a gunpowder barrel. Which could have had much more devastating circumstances, certainly. I think they had enough foresight, I think, to avoid most of the circumstances, and honestly, they were just a little bit lucky on the dice rolls. You know, peel back the curtain a little bit. There was a very good chance that all 3 of them would have just been knocked out by it. It wouldn't have been campaign over. I would have done something. It would have been a very interesting next thing, but it was very, very close. But basically, they just blew up the entire thing. They blew up the entire portal, and then like it knocked 2 of them unconscious, and one of them was very, very close. I think she was on like 3 HP or something. And the only reason she survived was not unconscious is because she was far enough away from the thing that she took slightly less damage from the explosion. But yeah, I mean, it was a backup thing because the number one plan was they use her to dispel magic and they get rid of a portal that way, and it's all like fine and dandy. And then, you know, what my actual plan was that they would fight this, potentially fight this creature that was sort of roaming around, or they try and escape it, and then I'd be like, okay, that's good enough for milestone leveling. But it failed. The Arcana check unfortunately failed. It was actually a decent chance not a decent chance it would fail, a decent chance it would pass. I think it was like just above 50% or something. No, because it was rolled with advantage, so it must have been like 75% or something for it to pass, but it failed, unfortunately. Which meant the only thing left was to do a big explosion. I'm glad they did, because, you know, it's very much just sort of like a, hey, here's a big red button, push it, push it, push it, sort of thing as a DM. Not to say that it won't have consequences, certainly. A lot of things got destroyed in that, and there definitely will be consequences which evolve from this, but my players will discover that in their own time, I think. And I don't want to give the entire game away, but certainly some interesting things may or may not happen from it. Yeah, so that's basically what I want to say from D&D. That was a session today, and I was just saying, like, I was certainly more tired today than usual, perhaps unsurprisingly, and I feel like I have the start of a cold coming on. I'm not sure. Like, I woke up this morning and I had a headache in the afternoon as well, so I don't know if I'm actually becoming, like, I feel fine now, I'd say, maybe like still more tired than usual, but yeah, so I feel like I didn't give enough grandioseness, I suppose, to that finale. But it was also like the session was running like half an hour over time, and I was like, okay, I just want to like make sure we get to this ending point. Like I can't just end it now. But yeah, yeah. So they had a rather explosive finish. Well, it's not really the end of Act 1. It's more like the halfway point of Act 1, I would say, in my mind. So it's certainly a very interesting thing, nonetheless. Where's Act 1 going to go from this? We'll have to see, you know. They've actually got quite a long trip backwards to the main town, which, you know, I think, you know, we'll see exactly how it pans out, but might be nice to do a bit of a side venture here and there, you know. I'm just thinking of like how story arcs work. You know, we had the big climax, or the midpoint climax, I suppose. And now we sort of bring it down with a bit more like leisurely sort of things for them to enjoy, and then we sort of start ramping up again to the end of Act 1 finale, which will, I don't know what level that will be at. Probably like level 6 or something. Like that's a transition from early game into like mid game or something for D&D. Anyway, I've got plans. Let's not spoil everything. But yes, I guess now we'll talk about trip, or part of the trip. I was sort of talk vaguely about it, sorry, like my mind is like meh. But that's probably why I think I'm starting to come down with some sort of cold or something, is because my speaking is like completely, not incoherent, but I felt like I couldn't string together sentences very well. Not like terribly, but I was certainly like, at some points I was just like, I can't think of what the word is. But yeah, so you might be like, okay, what did you do? You knew that me, dear darling, was going to do some camping as a holiday here, but it was basically a sort of repeat thing of what I did with some friends back in March 2022, where we went on a camping trip. But this time we went on a different camping trip to a different thing. We went to Wales, to a very famous mountain you might know as Snowdonia, or I think the actual name for it now is like Eadwydr or something like that. Hold on. Snowdonia, Welsh name. Oh, Irie. What? I thought it was called something else. Iwydfa. Something like that. Which, you know, honestly, I definitely should remember, because that's kind of like what it's officially kind of been called now. But Irie or Iwydfa. But yeah, we went there just to do some camping with a Soul Express goal of climbing it in the end. And you might be like, how tall is it? It's 1,083 meters, so it's pretty tall. It's not like insanely tall. Like Mount Everest is like 8,800, so it's like, you know, 1/10, not quite 1/10, but rounding to one order of magnitude is about 1/10 the size of Mount Everest. But it's actually something I'd done when I was younger. Like I went there on a family vacation when I was, I'm not really sure. I'm gonna say I was 15, 14, that sort of age. Yeah, somewhere like mid-teens, where I actually went with both my parents, and we went to climb Snowdonia. Before, you might be like, what path do you take? I think I took the Clamberis path. I'm not sure off the top of my head though. But I went there, and I'm gonna be honest, I was like a pretty, like, not like moody teenager. Well, maybe like moody teenager, like as most teenagers kind of are. But I was definitely a bit grumbly about it, because I was like, oh, look at this not modicum. It's actually like quite an intensive physical workout, like all this exercise. And I remember like getting towards the top and just being like, oh, I'm so like done with this. I mean, at the top, I was just like, I really want to just take the tram down, but instead we just walked, because like it cost money or something to take the tram down, and I was like, it's not worth it. I'll just walk. I think I also was like having stomach issues. I remember at like a midpoint of the top, or like coming down or something like that. But anyway, the point is, I did it before when I was younger, and I don't remember how necessarily difficult it was. I remember being very tired. I remember stopping to eat sandwiches. I remember at one point we got sort of lost, but we like went off the path or something at some point, and then we ended up like on this like really like steep mountain like hillside thing, which I remember like sort of going down on, like crawling on my butt down to get to the main path, because it was like super, well, it was scary for me at the time, but honestly I guess in retrospect it's probably not too scary. I mean, the worst thing that would have happened, I probably would have like tumbled down a hill. Not to say that you shouldn't be like, that you should just be like reckless on a mountainside. That's obviously insane. But certainly it just was like just a probably exaggerated in my mind. I remember being really annoyed at my parents at that point as well. Like, we went off a path and we like lost the path, and I was like, why did we do this? Just like stay on the path. But I don't know, my parents are kind of like have that adventurous exploration spirit in them, which I did not inherit, I suppose, from them. But we made it up nonetheless. And I remember at the top there's like a cafe which you can have like this beer where like was called 1,083 meters, which is meant to be like a mug, be like, hey, you climbed Stonen, and then it's like a sort of cool thing. So like we were I don't know, it was actually like a reasonably like last minute, sort of not last minute, like a week before we sort of put together this plan. We were like, okay, we want to do camping. Camping's actually quite an easy thing because you can kind of just like, as long as you just find like a camping site which you can camp at, you can just kind of do it whenever. It's like kind of like really flexible and that thing. And I mean, we had discussions like after we did the first camping. Like I actually really enjoyed camping, surprisingly. Like I thought it would not at all be my thing. Like I had it as a school trip before. And I wouldn't say I hated it, but I certainly didn't like a lot of aspects of it. Like one of the things I hate is the fact that I love modern amenities, you know, certainly. Things like I love the fact we have like sewage systems, I guess, like being able to use a bathroom, a comfort toilet. I don't really mind about bed and that sort of thing, but I also like not being freezing cold at night time. But not to say that I didn't enjoy the adventure of camping. Just certainly the worst part is definitely like having to use like these public sort of facilities. Like I remember when we did a school trip, like one of the we basically only one of the places had like actual camping facilities, like an actual toilet stall and a shower. I don't even remember because like the first place we stayed at, I remember the only thing we had was like the porta potties, and I hated those porta potties. They were like, I honestly just have a strong dislike for porta potties, not for their existence. Obviously, I understand why they exist, but you know. I don't really like using them. I don't think anyone particularly likes using them, but I'm sure some people are mostly unbothered by them, sort of being like, if you have to, you have to. I'm just like, I really hate it, to be honest. And I don't say the word hate lightly, I suppose. There's not many things I suppose I have such a distaste for, disdain for. But I remember that, like, on the first night, the place we stayed, we had to use just, like, porta potties. There was just, like, a garden tap outside or something, and I was just like, don't like that. The second place, I don't remember where we stayed, but basically the long and short of it is that I got kind of used to it over the week, I suppose, of staying, of doing this sort of camping thing. Ironically, like one of the friends who I did this camping with, who in this group of 4 that we did, was also on that trip, but I wasn't like sharing the same tent as him or anything. He was like in the other half of the group, which is wild to think about. Because back then I basically didn't know him at all. That was like the first time I met him. Anyway, we're good friends now. That's just so crazy to think back on how different we were back then. Anyway, that's not the point. We did that, and like I can't remember the second place we stayed, but the third place we stayed, I might even have photos of it if it's. I felt like, hold on, let me think. What age were we when we did that? It would have been GCSE, so I would have been 2014, I think. Summer 2014, is that the right sort of era? But yeah, I remember we had maybe a bit. I don't know, yeah, because that looks like A level. It must have been the summer before A level, right? That's my guess. I don't know necessarily where or when these photos might be, if I even have them. If I was smart enough to actually upload them to my Google Photos. But I certainly remember doing it. Yeah, I just remember the midway point we had like the actual camping facilities, where we had like the sink and the showers and that sort of thing. I don't know if I had a shower. I think I must have had no, actually I did have a shower, but I think I didn't bring shampoo and conditioner, so I just used like body wash for everything. Or something like that, and that was the only time I think I had a shower. I actually forgot. I had to leave that trip early because I dislocated my shoulder on like the second to last day, so I actually had to have like an ER stay where they popped my shoulder back in. And that was like the first time I like actually dislocated my shoulder, which was, you know, the start of many shoulder dislocations for me, which is also, you know, kind of strange to think about. I guess it must have been after 2014, or maybe I just didn't upload for photos here. Oh, hold on, is this it? Oh no, this is a different trip, which I don't think was the same as that camping trip. Anyway, so I didn't even see the camping facilities, I suppose, which were the second last and last day. But that's what I remember, and that's why I suppose, is one of the major reasons I didn't like the concept of camping or necessarily caravan. Like I don't mind like chalet houses or suppose like caravans where it's like stationary caravans because they still have like the sewage sort of system, but these like mobile ones. But you know, life is kind of all about pushing your boundaries, I suppose, and trying different things. So when it was suggested, I was like, I've obviously got to give this a shot. You know, I can't have this sort of be built on my preconceived notion of what my experience was when I was like 15 and like my I suppose my germophobia or something defining it. You know, you just sort of like got to get used to it. Well, not necessarily got to get used to it, but you got to sort of like test yourself, and then you'll be surprised at how much you can overcome. So when we actually did it the first time, I suppose in March 2022, I was surprised at how much I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like the camping facilities we had weren't like amazing. Like the toilets were fine. They weren't porta potties, which I think certainly helped, but they were like these small like cubicle stores. But we stayed on like this farming place. I must have spoke about this like when I came back from a holiday, and it was really like quaint and lovely. Definitely smelled a bit from what I recalled. And then like the shower facilities were surprisingly good. And then I was just like, okay, you know, what it turns out that once like the toilet, the bathroom facilities are sort of like taken care of all, I'm just like, oh, you know, I actually quite like camping. Turns out the part I don't like is I don't like using porta potties and not having to, you know, have a shower, I suppose. Once that's taken care of, I'm like, oh, fantastic. You might be like, does that count as glamping? I don't think it quite counts as glamping. I mean, certainly what we're doing is definitely not on the same level as wild camping. I don't think I would enjoy wild camping, to be perfectly honest, but maybe I'd be kind of surprised. But I like this sort of level of camping of like between camping and glamping. You know, we're still staying in the small tent, that sort of thing, and, you know, cooking over a stove and whatnot. We don't have like this sort of luxury, not resort, but luxury space to move around in or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I would still like to try glamping at some point, but it's I don't know, you kind of need like a lot of stuff for it. Like one thing that we certainly said, there was 4 of us, and we like filled up like one of my friend's cars basically with all the stuff we were bringing, and it was just like, how do we manage to bring so much every time we go camping? Obviously we need a lot. Like one of my, like, I mean I can say what I brought one bag which is basically just filled with clothes, which was a lot of layers, to be honest. Like I wore like 3 layers to go to sleep because I remember it gets really, really cold. So it had like that, it had like towels. I bought like a blanket. I didn't bring a pillow, I just stole one of my friend's pillows, essentially. I bought a bag full of board games, which definitely was the most excessive, I think, of this one, because we didn't actually play only with the board games. I think if we had a longer camping trip, we probably would have. Or if we had like more space in the tent, we probably would have, but we basically had no time because it was like the first day we got there, like unpacked. Second day, climb a mountain. Hold on. Udwidir, and the last day was like pack up and leave. So we basically had no time to play any of these sort of games, but I'm sure in other ones we would have. Then I bought, what else did I bring? I bought a lot of like kitchen supplies, because that was like my duty. I bought like a load of plastic plates and cutlery, and things in preparation for that. And then I bought like a final thing, a backpack of like miscellaneous things. Like I bought like electronics, like charging packs, stuff like that, medical stuff, toiletries, etc, etc. So I had like 4 bags of things, which was a nightmare to actually just like transport them in the first place. And like my friends always had like equally things, like these sort of things as well. Like one of my friends obviously had to bring like the tent and the air mattresses. Another friend had to bring like the rest of the kitchen supplies, like the cooking supplies, etc, etc. So we all had to bring like quite a lot of stuff in the first place. So it's wild that you can actually get away with while camping. I mean, I guess you just get away with like a lot of au natural stuff and much more efficient sort of packing things, etc, etc, right? A lot of reusing, I'd imagine. Which is another thing, actually, now I think about it, that we didn't quite do, I suppose, on that other camping trip, is that we had to carry around and like hike with basically all our stuff on that school camping trip, which is both like a building experience, but also one which was kind of like not the fun part of camping, I think, for me. Like we didn't have to carry around our tent, thankfully. Like I remember our teacher was like absolutely our teacher like aide for our group was absolutely insane, because he thought he had to like carry around his tent with him. So on the first day he like lugged literally everything, like as if he was wild camping, and I was just like, man, props to him, mad respect for doing so, but absolutely insane. But we did have to carry around like our sleeping bag and all our clothes and like our toiletries and that sort of thing, which is both a very interesting experience, but I'm glad I did it because it wasn't exactly for me. But this sort of like midway clamping which I guess is midway between camping and glamping thing, is very much something which is much more up my alley. I don't think I'd want to do it for like long stretches of time. The caravan thing holiday that I went on like last year, was it last year? I can't remember. Yeah, last year. Was also like fine-ish as well. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I still prefer to stay at like a house or like an Airbnb, hotel, etc. I mean, hotel ideally, honestly. But I understand that that's not what defines every single holiday, and you know, the priority, as I suppose, rather to go on these holiday with my friends in the first place. So, I'm not gonna say it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make, because it's not really much of a way of a sacrifice. It's just kind of a thing, isn't it? But yeah, it turns out just having access to like a proper bathroom facility and shower is really just all it takes for me to be like, okay, I can now like have a great time while camping. Because I can deal with the cold, I can deal with like uncomfortable beds and that sort of thing, and having to set everything up. But one thing I can't deal with is just that level of hygiene, I suppose. Anyway, I'm gonna round this episode. It's good to be back, so that much is true. But I'm gonna round this episode up here. I don't know if am I gonna record some Akami today? No, I'll record tomorrow. But if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now. Why is my mouse so slow? Excuse me? Oh, it's probably running out of battery or something.